Today, Mr. John Preston is with us. He has over 20 years of sales experience. As you know, we have been talking about the sales in class. And you are move up front. Last 4 rows will be So I will have some questions to test from today's presentation. So make sure you take notes. Okay.
Nothing in the back, 4 rows. So you go around the front. Nothing in those, okay?
Any
Thanks.
questions for me?
Doesn't matter where we sit.
Nothing in the back 4 rows is the only thing. Nothing in the back 4 rows. If you'll move up to one of the front seats. Thank you.
All right, I guess, why don't you get started?
All right. My name is John Preston. I have, as you heard, 20 plus years in sales, pharmaceutical sales mostly, but I've done other sales as well. Currently, I'm with a company called Sanofi Pasteur, pasteurization of new milk, same guy. So we've been around for about 100 years. I sell insulins to hospitals, physicians, pharmacies, and institutions, long-term care. So I have a very specific job. As a specialty rep, I have a larger territory. I call on more specialized physicians and care teams. A little bit of background about me. 88 graduate of Eastern in history and English, which explains why I'm doing some drugs. Master's in U.S. diplomatic history from Vanderbilt. Took about 2 years to try to figure out what I like to do. I worked in banking. I sold. Believe it or not, they actually had cell phones back in 1989, 1990. They were the bag phones. They were like this big, as you were carrying a brick. I sold those for a while. Went into ICI, Imperial Chemicals International, in primary care sales. I launched a couple of products. This was the height of pharmaceutical sales. Everybody was loving it. It was great money. And the government didn't dictate as much what we were allowed to and to not say to physicians. I've been promoted several times, worked for several companies. 2005, I was laid off. I was the number 14 sales rep in the nation out of 5,500 reps. And I was laid off because they don't care what your sales numbers are. They look at a model of where you've placed within geographies and then how much you cost. And they get rid of people or move them around. I chose not to move to Wichita, Kansas. Between 2005 and 2013, I worked a variety of pharmaceutical jobs with a lot of small companies, too many to put down because I'd work one and the company roll over because the economy was so bad, and so forth. So I worked for, I believe, 4 companies in a 3-year period. And then I went in and technically, while in 2013 I'm with Sanofi, I am with a company called Quintiles, not Sanofi per se, until January. Quintiles is the United States' largest pharmaceutical sales company and has absolutely no products. It's a contract sales company. And the way that works is I am hired by Quintiles. My salary is paid by Quintiles. My benefits are through Quintiles. I sell Sanofi products and I go through Sanofi training. But my job is for a finite period of time unless I do really well, in which case I get rolled into the Sanofi sales force. Right now I'm number 9 out of 2,700, so I got rolled in actually November 30th was the date they announced that. Sunday was technically the announcement. I got the email actually on Friday. And January 5th I will start with Sanofi as a full-time rep underneath their HR. So it's a little bit different. So when I say Sanofi, I am Sanofi, but I'm not. We're going to talk a little bit about general sales. So let me ask you, some of you have done sales, I'm assuming, at some point. And at least some of you probably have family members who have done sales. Can you tell me some of the aspects of sales? You have the opening and the close. You guys heard of feature benefit? Has anyone heard that phrase before? Okay, a lot of blank looks. Feature benefit is really what makes sales happen. A feature is like leather seats on a car. That's great, who cares? What's the benefit to the person who's buying that leather seats? Okay? That's what motivates people to make decisions. Feature benefit. So every time you're in sales, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in sales, whether you're presenting an idea to your boss, whether you're presenting yourself to get hired, what feature is there, and then what benefit is there to the person who's making the decision. Okay? Who here wants to be a volunteer? It's really great. It's going to be pretty easy, honest to goodness. Illinois, basketball. Yeah, come on, just real quickly. You're going to give me 2 features from this pen. Okay, give me 2 features and 2 benefits. 1.
Sharpie pen,
Okay.
good brain,
What's that mean? That's a feature. What's the benefit to a Sharpie?
it's reliable,
Okay, that's good.
it's black.
Okay. Yeah, and what's the, that's a feature. What's the benefit to black?
It's a standard color, it's easy to see, read.
Legal documents, it's
Yeah.
happy. Okay, all right. Can you give me another feature? Okay, that's cool. That's fine. It's a challenge to do this, especially thinking. By the way, thank you. You did pretty good. Everybody, give a little hand of love. Okay, this is one of my favorite pens, and the reason the silver pens, as a sales representative, are actually preferred color because they draw people's eyes to it. It's silver. That allows you to draw a person's eyes to what you're pointing at. That's a feature of benefit. It writes in black. It's a legal color for all legal documents. It's acceptable. It's got this handy little clip, so you can clip it onto your shirt, or make sure you don't lose it. Another feature benefit. Those are feature benefits, guys. And that's the way you've got to think about sales. Okay? Features, tell, benefits, sell. All right? That is, I don't care what you're in, if you're in marketing or sales or anything where you're presenting ideas, features, tell, benefits, sell. All righty? So keep that in mind. Now, what makes a successful salesperson, and this is not from any textbook, this is kind of off the top of my head, the things I've been thinking for. You have to have knowledge of your product, your features, and your benefits, okay? Knowledge of the market. That means not just the overall national market or just your competitors, but knowledge of everything else that's going on, which rolls into the awareness of your territory or whatever area you work. If you work in a business where you're in a, again, some of these things as far as sales, I'm trying to move them on to other areas. If you work in a bank, you need to know all aspects of your bank, so when you present ideas to your supervisors, they fit in with the bank's ideas or concepts, okay? Buy-in or ownership, that's the hardest thing. You gotta really care about what you're doing, and the reason salespeople are motivated is normally bonus, right? Okay, trust me, that's a big buy-in. I'll be blunt with you guys, and if I'm at 100% to plan, my bonus over the course of a year is right at $30,000, okay? Then there's an accelerator for every percent I'm above that. Right now I'm at 139% to plan. I'm very blunt. I have a lot of ownership and a lot of buy-in right now in my job, okay? Empathy and understand the customer and their needs. This goes back to the features tell, benefits sell. If you don't understand what the customer needs, you can't sell. And many times the customer doesn't know what their needs are. How many of you have purchased a car or been with your family when you purchased a car? Okay? You go in, your dad or mom or uses, you know, oh my God, look at the Corvette. Love that, it's great, exactly what I want. However, you've got 6 kids. Not gonna work, right? As a salesperson, you've got to be able to define what the needs of the customer are, even if they don't know what they are. And that takes a lot of empathy and hearing. Remember, you have 2 ears, 1 mouth. As a sales representative, you want to get your customer to talk to you. Explain what's going on, and then be able to answer their questions and show how what your product has or whatever product you have meets their needs or desires. Does that make sense? Okay. Again, this is really basic sales. You gotta have people skills, listening skills, honesty, tenacity, drive, and self-assessment. If you do not check yourself after every time you make a call on a customer and say, you know, did I do a good job? You will never get better. And when you're riding with your boss, if you're a salesperson, and my boss rides with me a couple times a year, in this case it's been 11 times, and I had a regional manager and a senior vice president of sales, which was terribly frightening. You need to assess yourself because they're assessing you. And so you need to say, you know, did I have a good opening? Did I grab that person's attention? Did I ask a good question? Did I listen to what they said? And did I present them a feasible alternative using my product? And did I close? Did I ask for the business? You will be surprised the number of sales people who do not close. They do not ask for the business. Okay, what makes a successful sale? Again, top of my head. Positive tension. Have you ever been in where you ask them a question, it's like, ooh, what sort of answer am I going to get? There's a little bit of tension. I don't know. You're at a party, you ask a young lady her phone number, and you get that split second, like, holy, maybe not. It's been a while for me. I'm married for 25 years. But you get that moment, you're like, is she going to answer or not? And you get a good response. That positive tension, you can feel it in the call, where they're like thinking about, well, that's a good question. I don't know whether I should answer it. How am I going to answer it? That's positive tension. Okay? So you look for positive tension when you're doing sales play. And understanding the needs and how your department meets those needs, kind of a review. And then there's so many sales processes and techniques. I just listed 3. And I will tell you, I have probably, in my 20 years plus of sales, I've probably been through 20 plus sales process programs. If you want to sell something and make a lot of money, come up with a sales process. Okay? ABC, you'll hear that one. Glengarry Glen Ross is a movie. If you are at all interested in sales and marketing, I would suggest you look it up. It's about salesmen. Always be closing. So is this what you want? Is this, if I give it to you for 10% off, would you buy it now? Would you buy it now? Always close. Okay? I don't like that process, but it works for many people. Spin selling, situation, problem, implication, and need. So tell me what's going on. Why do you need product X, the widget? So your problem is that you don't have enough whatever. What implication is there for not having this need filled? Here's how my product fills your need. Okay? Does that make sense? You guys are taking notes. I'm going to slow down here for a second. And I do not have any clue what's going to be asked of you. So, finally, challenge. And this is the one my company's very high on right now. How you sell is more important than what you sell. And there have been a number of studies that show this. The salesperson and the relationship with their customer is much more important in many cases than the actual differences in the product. In most cases, there's not a huge difference in the product. I'm in pharmaceutical sales. I sell insulin. My number 1 product is a product called Lantus. Lantus has a 24-hour half-life. It's dosed once a day. Has a relatively low level of hypoglycemia. My competitor is Levemir. It's a 24-hour basal insulin. It's dosed once, sometimes twice a day. Has a relatively low incidence of hypoglycemia. 95% of the time, doctors dose it once a day. Mine is always dosed once a day. Is that 5%? And they have basic same coverage, they have the same cost. Why do doctors write one product over the other? In large part, because they like the salesperson. So the salesperson is more important than the incremental product differences in many cases. Look at cars. I mean, if you maybe somebody's a Honda guy, you love Hondas, but you walk in and look at a Toyota. It's got 4 wheels, right? It's got an engine, gets the same basic gas mileage. They all come with leather, CD, everything, you name it. You can hook your iPod up to them, they all Bluetooth. Outside of styling differences, there's not a huge difference in many cases how you're treated by the salesperson. Does that make sense to y'all? Okay. So that's some of the basics on successful sales. And what sales does wrong? This is from Forbes magazine. And there are a lot of things I agree with this. You assume the prospect communicates is the real problem. A lot of times you have to find that hidden need. I talked about that a little bit earlier. Oh, you know, again, we'll go to cars. I need a car that gets great gas mileage. Well, that's true. But I also need a car that, because I'm 6'7", is big enough for me, but I'll tell you that. I also have 5 kids, and they all play lacrosse. So I need to have a thing in the back to hold lacrosse sticks that's big enough. You know, there are all those sort of things you have to look into. So find the need behind their need. Thinking that a sales presentation will seal the deal. This is huge. If you make a presentation like what I'm doing now, you're probably not going to sell a whole lot. You need to have that one-on-one time. You need to ask questions. You need to listen. We all have a tendency in sales and marketing specifically to talk an awful lot, me included. You need to learn to not talk so much and to listen. Okay. Talking too much, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Believing that you can sell anybody anything, you can. Most people, honestly, you can't really sell someone anything unless they want to buy it, number 1. And 2, most of the time they've predetermined the majority of what they're going to buy. You guys go online and do all your research, right? You're going to buy a new laptop. How many of you go get online and do some basic research? You go to Best Buy, what do? Which one's got the best price? Or you online, which one's got the best price? Okay, this is a 256 gig and this is, I don't know, whatever, 512. Is that going to make a difference to me? I don't know, not $100 worth. So I'm going to buy the 256, right? Or not. You've already decided much of that. So when you talk to a salesperson, a lot of times it's finding that need behind the need, getting that personal empathy and connection. Slick marketing materials help, things like that. Failing to remember that salespeople are decision makers too. As a salesperson or a marketing person, you are directly impacting that person's view of what they see. When you look at an ad in a magazine, shiny, bright, glossy, beautiful layout, gorgeous people, probably not a bald guy anywhere in the layout, that is influencing what you do. Salespeople influence what you do as well. The way we present those things, the way we talk to you, the way we listen to you. So that's what your decision maker. You assume stuff. I do this all the time. I assume I've made the doctor understand what I'm talking about. I assume that they understand what I'm talking about, and they have no clue. And I'll come back 2 months later. My conversations, by the way, are 30 seconds to 5 minutes long. And I'll have that conversation with the physician 10 or 12 times over the course of a 6-month period. And I'll have to rehash what we talked about last time. 9 out of 10 times, they're like, oh, what? Really, I said that? Oh, okay. They don't remember, people in many cases don't remember what you talked about the last time you talked to them if you're continuing the sales process. So don't assume that you know, and don't assume if you're in an immediate sales process that you know what they want, what they need, or what their answers are going to be. A lot of times, and I'm guessing everyone here has done this, someone's talking, you're already running through your mind how you're going to answer that statement they made. Especially if you're in an argument, like with mom and dad, and they're telling you to get your butt in gear and all this other stuff, you're already answering in your head. You're not even listening to what they say, right? I got 2 kids in college, so I already know what they're saying. Working as an unpaid consultant in an attempt to close a deal. Well, let me see if I can help you out on that. Let me see if I can help. I can do some of this. I can run some numbers for you. You know what? Don't get too involved in being everything to the customer you're working for. They have people who look at numbers. They see things. So, offer help, but don't be overboard. And keeping your fingers crossed that people don't know is a problem. This happens all the time. I have a product that's not on managed care in one particular plan in this area. Managed care is a huge aspect in what I do. My product is not preferred on a HMO, a managed care plan called Coventry. So if I tell a doctor, hey, you know what, we're covering under 95% of the plans in the United States, that's true. But if a third of his business is Coventry, he writes my product, he gets a phone call back, and the nurse says, you know what, then we can't write that for him. We write Lavemere, and he's going to go, what the hell did John just tell me? He told me I have it covered. You know what, doc? In this area, you can't write Coventry, but you can write for Health Alliance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, CVS Caremark, United Healthcare. Be upfront. Don't hide stuff. You will earn more business by being upfront and honest than trying to hide things from people. Would you buy from someone that you knew they liked to you? Treat them like you'd like to be treated. Okay? Very much what sales is about. You guys get most of this down, or at least enough of it for the time. Now, what do I do every day? Every week on Tuesday morning, I get my sales numbers for the previous 3 weeks, so it's kind of a different delay in there. So I review and compare my 4x4, I put my 4-week numbers to 4-week numbers, to my 13-week by 13-week numbers, and I run trends and graphs to determine what I'm doing. I mean, I do it all the way down to the physician level. I do it within managed care plans. I do it within geographical areas. I look for trends. I plan my attack. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm losing a little market share in Health Alliance right now. I've got to make sure I up my game there. I look for holes in my discussion. A lot, as a sales rep, you'll talk to yourself an awful lot, okay? Especially in the car if you have sales territory. You'll find yourself going, how am I going to say that? And if you don't practice it and verbalize it, you can't do it. It's like practicing a speech. How many, and you guys had a speech, right? I can't remember what's called, speech comp. And how many of you got up and did some impromptu speech or 2? You got an A, nailed that. Walk out of there, right? I am so good. You did that in a sales presentation. Dude, I nailed that. You're going to go, I'm never buying from that person. No way. So that's important. Review protocols. There are certain areas where sometimes I can't go in. It used to be years ago, I'd throw on a white coat, throw a stethoscope around my neck, and I'd walk anywhere I wanted in the hospital. I can't do that anymore. I get thrown out by security. So I kind of have to know what I'm doing. Remember that only you can drive your business. Nobody else is out making calls for me. If I don't make a call, I don't make any money. I make salary, but I don't make bonus. Salary is nice, and I love my salary, and I'd be really unhappy if I didn't have it. But I really love my bonus because that buys things like motorcycles and sports cars and pays for my kids' education, things like that. So remember, if you do go into sales, and you'll be amazed at the number of people who don't actually make sales calls. And if you get into it, you'll find out people you work with. Yeah, I didn't feel like going out today. Really? Just work 8 to 5, man, 9 to 5, something like that. It's really not that hard. Okay, what motivates you? Obviously money. I mean, you probably heard that from me. It sounds crass, but we're business people, so let's talk business. Pride, competitive spirit, drive to succeed, future success and promotions. If you're a good sales representative, you get moved up into specialty sales, or you become a district manager or regional manager, maybe you move into marketing, maybe you move into training. There are a ton of opportunities once you get into sales with a good company. My company nationwide has around 10,000 employees worldwide. Wide is right around 180,000. Our headquarters is in Paris. By the way, if I move up 2 more percentage points, I will be going to Paris with my wife this August, coming August, so for 2 weeks. That's one of the little benefits to being good at what you do. You get a lot of other mentions. You get opportunities to get promoted. Hey, you want to come to our corporate headquarters in New Jersey and spend 6 months here in marketing? Yeah. You go do that, you get a little bonus, you come back with some more money. So there are a lot of opportunities if you go in sales. So pharma in and of itself is a little different ballgame. I mean, you guys seen the pharma reps, the guy in the suit, the gal in the suit, right in the doctor's office, and you think, dang, I'm not going to get in because I got to look out, it's going to take all their time. Okay? We have a lot of things that we have to look at, and we get reviewed by the legal department. This morning I spent 2 hours between 6 and 8 doing a legal implications of the Sunshine Act study thing where I had to test out on it. If you get less than 90, you get to do it one more time. If you get less than 90 again, you let go. So you get tested on stuff on a regular basis. All sorts of things, ways I can get fired, fined, put in jail, lots of fun stuff. Same thing with physicians. No discussion off label. In other words, I can't talk about, hey, you know what, if you use insulin for people who have X, good things. Used to be, that happened all the time in pharma. There's a really famous case study of a Pfizer representative selling Viagra, who sold it for literally everything under the kitchen sink, doctors. Because Viagra was originally a blood pressure medication, as was Propecia, which is the word that became something which doesn't work, at least not for me. You can't have a quid pro quo. Hey, doctor, you write 10 scripts, I'll take you and your wife out for dinner. Now that's in pharma. There are other places where that is acceptable. No promotional items of value. I cannot give a doctor a pen or post-it notes anymore. That is undue influence. However, if I were at golf, no, I work for Ping, and I went to talk to, say, I don't know, a congressman, I could take him and his wife out for a fancy dinner and we could go golfing and that would be okay. I can't give anything out to a doctor like that. Even clinical trials have value. And if I give a doctor a clinical trial, I have to write that down, I have to record it in my system, and that doctor will at a certain point be taxed on the value of the items he is receiving from sales representatives. So doctors don't want anything from me, okay? Violation, substantial fines, $50,000, $100,000 fines if I violate stuff. 3 to 5 years in jail is a normal judgment. Okay. The reason I bring up pharma in particular, obviously I have a lot of experience in it. The future of pharma, I have a lot of people tell me, hey, I thought about getting into pharma. My son, daughter wants to get into pharmaceutical sales. I tell them, I don't know, maybe not the best choice for you. I'm not saying it's a wrong choice, but there are a lot of issues at the moment. The Affordable Care Act and its consequences are still unknown for pharma, what's going to happen. Doctors don't make the decision in many cases for what products you use. It's made by managed care companies. What's cheaper? What's easier for them, what they have a contract with. My influence now is significantly less than it was 5 years ago, much less 15. 5 years from now, I don't know, will we have pharma reps? Not a clue. The cost of innovation are rising right now. It costs about $1 billion to create and bring a drug to market, which is why it costs so much for you to get filled. So, on average, a pharma company starts out with 5,000 to 6,000 potential products, and they will bring 2 to 3 to market within that 5,000 to 6,000. So they'll spend $2 to $3 billion looking at 5,000 products to bring 2 or 3 to market. It takes about 6, 7 years to do that. Okay, then you have to get your patent expiration out of it. How long's a patent good? Do you guys know? Patent life? Okay, 15 to 17 years essentially is how you look at it. So I applied for my patent after about 2 years of study. It takes me 5 more years to decide it works in humans. I do 2 years of clinical trials, which cost me about $500 million. I spent $1 billion and I've got 10 years to make my money back, maybe 8. Oh, guess what? somebody files suit and says they should make it as a generic earlier. I lose the suit, now I've got 4 years to make the money back. Okay, that's how pharma kind of works. Right? And then, but luckily, I have 500 attorneys that I pay a boatload of money to fight that lawsuit. Access, customers changing electronic. Medical records are changing, everything is changing in what I do. And just because it's changing in pharma, it's changing in almost everything else. The rise of the internet, personal mobile devices, the fact that you can access information at your fingertips, some of it real and some of it fake, changes what sales representatives do and find every day, and what marketing does. Who hates pop-up ads when they're trying to read a website? You know, I don't know, maybe Forbes, whatever. I know Forbes is probably one of those top sites for you guys. But you read in Forbes, and it's like, I don't care. I don't need 5 pair of underwear for $3 for the next 3 months. You know, and those stuff pop up. That's changing what salespeople do as well. So, I blew through a ton of information relatively quickly. I do not know I will be able to answer, if I will be able to answer any questions you ask. Okay? But, do you have any questions you would like to ask me with anything at all? If not, I'll continue to blather for a few more minutes, and then maybe Dr. T can get you guys taken. Questions? Yes?
Rotate through a lot of jobs, facts.
It seems like more so than it used to be. My first company I was with for 6 years. Then I went 2 years with a biotech company, which was great, but they wanted me to blow my territory up. I had young kids, and I was hardly ever home anyway, so I switched. And I was 7 years with that company. So initially, yes, but with the changes we've seen in healthcare and so forth, and of course the downturn of the economy, I was 3 years, and I was, like I said, 4 companies, 3 years. It's just been crazy. I've been with this company now for 15 months, and they're bringing me on full time. My expectations, I'll stay with them as long as I possibly can, hopefully for quite some time. But there is a lot of turnover. And sometimes it doesn't matter how good you are in the real world. You guys will discover that regardless of what business you get into. You can be really good at what you do, but if they crunch numbers, and at some point they go, yeah, we don't need another junior analyst. Who's low man or low person, sorry, on the totem pole, send them out. Or, you know what, Jim, he doesn't fit in as well as the other people. They'll send you on your way. So be aware of that. And when you interview, when you look for positions, think about what the stability of that particular industry is. Think a little bit about it. You have a lot less choice for you, unfortunately, because you're new hot, you don't have a lot of experience. In many cases, you don't have the opportunity to be picky on your first job. And so you may take a job with the plan of skipping out 6 or 9 months. I got some experience, but I'm going to go. Work for Watts Copiers or Enterprise. A lot of pharmaceutical reps came out of Enterprise because they were taught a very specific sales model, and it worked for a while in pharma. So look at where you are, look at what you want to do, and try to figure out the steps to get there. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Anybody else? Yes?
Do you have to have much medical background or prior medical knowledge before you started at Science?
No, I have a degree in history and English, okay? I mean, and my ability, basically you're trained as if you know nothing, and it depends on the company. Most companies start you out with about a 2-month training period, and you do home study, and you are given modules, and you have to study them, and then you are proctored by someone within the company, or in my case, the manager came, sat down, and I had a test, and it pulls up, and if you get less than 90%, they give you another shot. If you get less than 90, they'll decide whether they're going to keep you or not. When I worked for Genentech, I got trained by cardiac physicians, surgeons. I spent 2 months in San Francisco at UC Davis, worked in the cath labs, because what I was selling was a product called tissue plasminogen activator, which is a bio product, a DNA product, that actually opened up clotted arteries. And then I spent another month in at UCLA. I can't remember the site UCLA. One of their things, and worked on reading MRIs, so I could help doctors understand how to read an MRI to determine whether or not someone was having the type of stroke, whether it was a blockage or a bleed, because that determined whether or not you could use our product. So they train you very intensively, and you're constantly tested. In the 15 months I've been at this job, I would guess I've probably had somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 or 30 tests. So about 1 or 2 a month minimum. And then when you go to training meetings, 3 days of meetings, like, woo, we're going to Orlando. You don't leave the hotel. You might as well do it in Des Moines, Iowa, at Red Roofing. and you get trained, and you get tested, and then you got to verbalize. You have to be certified is what they call it. So you get a sales aide, and you have to go randomly say, John, you need to go over here. You walk in, it's a doctor who's someone in training, and there's someone else watching, and they check how good you are. If you don't meet the code, you send right back in the cattle home. If you don't do it a second time, you may be sent home. There's a lot of people who get sent home. Training is really important. I know most of you are going to be looking for jobs in the next year or two. I want to give you the advice I give my son. Start looking now. If you're a junior, start going to the Career Center now. Find out how the people in your industry dress now. Start buying clothes and learning how to wear shirts. I see a couple guys with shirts and ties, which is cool. That's good. Ladies, I see you dress nicely too. It's important that you learn how to be comfortable in the clothes that you're going to be working in when you interview. Because if you're sitting there going, oh, God, you know, and they notice your discomfort, that's a negative in the interview process. So be comfortable in your own skin and start preparing now. I mentioned earlier, I have a friend of mine, his son will start at Kohl's in their internet marketing department. He is a senior, still has a year, 6 months of school left, and he's already got a job in his apartment. He's making good money now. And that's my son, who's an English and journalism major, as I would call it, unemployment. He is looking for a job. It's a real challenge for him. He's at Ole Miss right now. They have to go to every career fair. I mean, first thing I told him is interview with everybody. I don't care if you're interested about them or not. Learn how to answer questions. It's the most important thing you can do. Learn how to interview. Mom and Dad, I probably tried to tell you this stuff. I'm telling it to you as well. Learn how to interview. It's really hard to do. I go in an interview, I sweat like it. And of course, I don't have any hair to hide it, so I get that little bead thing going. It's not very attractive. It's part of what you got to learn to control. Okay, I know that wasn't what you asked. Did I answer your question, Mom? Okay. Anybody else have a question? About sales in general? Working for a multinational, multi-billion-dollar company and how fun it is? Yes?
In the aspect of like balancing your time between educating yourself and preparing for sales calls and actually presenting to clients, whatever, how difficult was it to find that balance to where you kind of get everything covered, and like how long did that take you to figure out?
As soon as I know, I'll tell you. No. It is, it's something you confront every day. Work-life balance is part of this, so I'm going to briefly touch on that. You'll hear work-life balance when you go, oh, we're real big on work-life BS. They're not big on, they're big on work, okay, and your life is work. It takes a while to figure out how to do that. First of all, your initial response when whatever company you're with, whatever job you're with, is I have to know everything about everything. You never will, okay? Try to familiarize, ask people questions who do your job. Find a mentor. Oh my goodness, please find a mentor whatever job you get into. Find someone who's your manager, somebody who's been there for 5 years. Be careful. Sometimes you get that jaded individual who teaches you the bad things. Not really, I can't do that. Find someone who can mentor you. Spend some time. I would guess on average, I make 8 to 10 sales calls a day. The company wants us to do 9. It's a bit of a challenge because I have a lot of driving. In my new territory, I will even have more. I'm going to go all the way up to Orland Park and Tinley Park. In my new organization, thankfully, they're only asking me to do 6 calls a day on average with that. You've got to really be focused. Prep work makes a huge difference. And you guys, it's just like school. How long did it take you to figure out how to study in college? Because in high school, I know my kids, high school, they never learned. Just like, well, yeah, whatever, I got it. College is a little different. And it takes a while for you to figure out, you know what, I can't study in my apartment because my roommate's always banging out the Led Zeppelin really loud. So I go to wherever. I'm probably not Led Zeppelin for you guys. So you find someplace else to study. You find out, you know what, I really study best between 3 and 5 in the afternoon, or whatever it happens to be. Same thing when you're doing your job. I am not a morning person particularly, but I have learned to get up at about 4:30 or 5 in the morning because then I can go work out, which I know doesn't look like it. And then I can sit down while I'm cooling off and I look at numbers, go take a shower, come back, finish up my numbers, plan the rest of my day. Boom, I'm out the door at 7:30. That's the way it works for me. I'm home between 5 and 6 almost every day. So my job on average, I would say I put in 50 plus hours a week. And that's pretty standard, I think, for most jobs anymore. 40-hour week is a thing of the past. So, and if you're thinking, think of this also. There are 2,000 hours in a work year, right? So that's at the office. That doesn't count into traveling to and from the office if you're doing an office job, or as a sales rep, it doesn't mean travel to and from your first sales and last sales call. It doesn't count the other stuff you're asked of. So you start thinking about that. It's a lot of time that you have to spend on your job. So you really have to learn how to plan your day. I love my iPad with its planner. I don't know how I would survive without it. With my phone, same thing. Really good records. Keep track of what you do. Plan your work, and then work your plan. Is an old phrase, and it holds true. My kids laugh because I tell them, say, plan your schoolwork, and then work your school plan. And it really does make a difference if you know what you're doing and you have a goal. Is that a lot of this to get there? Anything else, guys? You guys are quiet. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Just one more quick
Sure.
question. Have you noticed a big difference between the percentage of sales that you close on now versus when you first started?
It's kind of different because I say I close but I don't close. But there's a difference in the way it used to be. When I started, I'd walk into a doctor and say, hey doc, and I'm going to use a product called Zestro, which you guys have no clue what it is, an angiotensin-converting enzyme inhibitor. Originally came from a Brazilian pit viper venom, and they determined it lowered blood pressure. Okay. See, you're like, oh, what? So it was the first of its kind. And I would go and I'd talk to doctors, oh my God, this is the greatest thing. And they go, oh, I love it. And then we used to get data, instead of having 2 to 3 weeks lag, I'd get data the next week. And I'd like, Dr. Johnson, I love you. And so I know exactly what I was getting. Now, there are a lot more competitors normally in the same marketplace. So that changes a little bit. And then how quickly your data. We don't get a signature. Yeah, Dr. Johnson, I will write 10 scripts. Instead, we get it through a pharmacy, which then reports it to another company, and reports it to us, and we get the data scrubbed. So I don't see as much data as I used to. I think you'll discover, depending on what you sell, there will be changes in the way how you can see your closing percentages. But it's not what it was, because there's so many more factors in what I do, and there are more factors every year. Because managed care plans. Doctors hate managed care plans. They hate insurance. If any of you have physicians, even if you have physicians or parents or someone in the healthcare field, anybody feel like rulers fail? Anyway, physicians can't stand, for the most part, they can write a product, and then the pharmacy says, yeah, I'm sorry, it's not covered. Well, that's the part I want to be, yeah, it's not covered, you can't get it. What if I give them samples? You still can't write it. I mean, there's a lot of those sort of things involved that aren't in other jobs, but those sort of factors exist in everything you do. So, yes?
A lot of pharmaceutical reps I talk to say that they get the doors in the face with a lot of the new regulations, and they can't even get back to see the doctor. So how do you go about making sales if you can't even?
Incredibly good looks. HIPAA guidelines are a large part of what's closed down with doctors. And actually, it's a misreading of the guidelines. The health insurance portable something or other anyway. HIPAA guidelines state that if you're not part of the medical team that's taking care of that patient, you cannot see the data. You cannot see anything about them. I can't see that, okay, my gosh, they weigh 118 pounds, they're 5'4". I can't look at that stuff. Well, what doctors' offices have done in clinics is like, well, we can't allow you back anywhere where that data is. Well, that's not really what the point of HIPAA was, but it's what happens. So you got to learn, regardless of what sales you're in, or if you're in marketing, how to get past, or if you're trying to sell your idea to your superior, how to get past the gatekeeper, the person who at the front desk, the person who answers the phone. How to get past them. And the first thing is make a relationship with them. So, now it helps I live in Charleston, okay? But I'm going to use, today I was in Mattoon, Dr. Michael, Joe, and Thane's office. Come on, Vicki. Come on. I need to talk to the No, he doesn't. Oh, come on, sure he does. And then first thing I do is I talk to her about her kid who's playing volleyball in Eugene, Oregon. We talk about that for 2 or 3 minutes, and small talk. And the next thing, can I come around and talk to you for it's a little easier. I don't get the patient point. Next thing I know, I'm back. That's just the way it is. You got to be a little bit of a snake oil salesman to do it. You got to play the game. I mean, that's part of what and you guys do that right. I always tell people, you want to be a good salesperson, learn how to date a lot of people. Don't mean that in a negative way, but I mean, really, if you can sell yourself in that way, you can do the same thing in sales in your case. And I keep saying sales is everywhere. How many of you are finance? 2, 3. Okay. How many of you have ideas that you want to maybe present to others? You know, you've got a job concept or a business concept. You have to present that to people who have money. So if you're in finance, you're either going to be on the presenting end or you're going to be presented to. All right? So you've got to know about sales that way. Anybody interested in HR issues? Something like that? HR? Okay. You're going to hear a lot of sales pitches there. Ah, man, I was not drunk when I drove that car. You know, they're going to be selling you on everything. And again, you have to sell people. Really, this is a really good person. We should hire them. Why? What's the feature benefit? Okay? Everything is sales. And I know it's an exaggeration, but there is so much sales that you do every day. The best salesperson in the world is the 5-year-old kid who wants the new toy. How many of you got a toy your parents said no to? Everybody here convinced their parent. That's why, because you were a great salesman. You just beat the crap out of your parent. They said, fine, I'll buy it. Okay? That's part of sales too. So every one of you has been a salesperson at this point in your life, at least 2 dozen times. So that's part of it. Hey, final thing I want to touch on real quickly is interviewing, getting ready for the career, for the real world. Okay, this is basic stuff. Make sure you have guys, shirt and tie, know how to wear the tie, make sure the tie's not hanging down to your midriff or mid-waist, okay? Make sure your tie's appropriate, make sure your shirt's pressed. I will tell you this, I've been to job fairs and I see the guys who have their little suit label right here, 100% wool. Or they've got the vent right here, still got a little cross of fabric in it. Make sure you know what you're looking at when you're buying clothes and you get them fit. Women, I see women walking around and they're stepping on their pants because they are wearing pants that they are too long and maybe their heels don't fit or their heels are too big. Those all have impressions on people when they see you. You want to be as put together as you can. You don't have to spend a ton of money, but you got to be put together. Kohl's is a great place. I don't have any stock in Kohl's, but if you don't have a lot of money, do that. I just gave 6 suits to the Salvation Army. Okay, if you don't have money, there are places you can go. You can get things. I just gave them a cashmere coat. So, you know, those things are out there for you to pick up. Pay attention to what people who work in that business do. If you're going to go in finance, you need to probably be wearing a dark suit. You don't want to be wearing a hot pink shirt. Okay? In fact, you probably never want to wear a hot pink shirt to an interview, unless you definitely want them to remember you. Always a firm handshake. Look them in the eyes. It's uncomfortable sometimes to look someone in the eyes for a while. You don't want to stare at them. But you want to look in the eye, make sure that you're getting some sort of connection there. Questions. Have questions about that company that make sense. Not like, so what do you do? Oh my God, didn't even know what we do. They're not even going to be in. But know something. So I saw in last week's Forbes that you guys were down 3.5% in total revenues. Can you explain to me why that is? What things do people have in your company that make them successful? What attributes do they have? Have a good question. The question everybody gets, so tell me something about yourself that you're not happy with. Tell me something that a fault is. For this one, tell me something that you're not good at. That's a trick. Oh, I'm a perfectionist, so sometimes I spend too much time. Everybody hears that. Every time I hear that, and I've done a lot of interviewing, just mark them off. Okay? Think about what things you know what, I have a tendency to obsess about certain details, so I'm working very hard to make sure that I'm looking at the whole picture. That's a much better response than I'm a perfectionist, and so I work really hard on it, and I'm never happy, okay? Nobody really wants to work with that person, do they? So, when you're doing your interviews, have a game plan, plan your work your plan, feature and benefit your pay when you're in your interviews. I was a straight A student, who cares? I don't care if you're a straight A student, what can you do for me? I was a straight A student, which shows that I'm willing to work extra hours to make sure I accomplish the job the best way possible. So when I work for you, I will get the job done the best way and the way you want it done. Okay? That's a feature benefit. Does that make sense to you? And again, I know you guys do some of this, and some of you are already thinking, I don't care, but you really got to start looking for your jobs now and start thinking hard about this. And ask your parents, if you're parents who are in a field, or friends, professors, it's important to take advantage of this now and get on the ball. As I said, my son is a senior at school. I asked him about his job fair experience. Oh man, I didn't make it. I overslept. I almost killed him. If I had been able to go through FaceTime, I would have killed him right then and there. Luckily, he's 7.5 hours away from me, so by the time I got to see him 3 weeks later, I had calmed down and I only hit him once. So, not really kidding. So pay attention. If your seniors, be on the ball now. If your juniors, start getting on the ball. If your sophomores, you're way ahead of the game if you start looking now. Does that make sense? Any other questions? Or did I bore them enough?
We still have some time.
You guys have,
Question.
come on, surely someone has another question about.
I have a question.
Yes.
Alright, so you're in sales, so you have been in sales for a while, and some people, they choose to go into sales management, some people don't. So what are some advantages and disadvantages of staying in sales or moving up to management?
Okay, in the sense of being totally honest with you, I actually just interviewed for a sales management position. Unfortunately, I didn't get it in Tupelo, Mississippi, which maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Sales versus sales management is somewhat dependent on temperament. I'm a little challenged. I'm concerned about being a sales manager. You've got to like ride a herd, if you will, and it's like herding cats or a 3-year-old. Get them in the same direction as salespeople. Every salesperson knows exactly how to do their job perfectly. I mean, I know way better than my manager does how to do my job. He may disagree. When you make that step into sales management, you sometimes have to decide, how much more am I going to work? I will tell you this, my current manager works at least 75 to 80 hours a week. He doesn't make that much more than me. In fact, his bonuses are less than mine because he's paid on a team. So I'm doing really good. We've got like 3 other people doing really good. We got 7 people who aren't doing that good. So his bonus, I know for a fact he made $8,000 less last quarter than I did in bonus. So you have to decide, do I want to do that? Do I want to be a manager? Do I want to do things like hire and fire? Firing sucks. Okay. Hiring can be no fun too. Do I want to correct people on a regular basis? Yeah, that's not so good, John. And he and I have a really interesting relationship. We get along pretty well. And I'm fine with him being abrupt with me, if you will. Frankly, Vince, my manager, I walked out of the sales call and he trained, that was horrible. This is responsible. Yeah, it was. And so we started talking about what I did wrong. I did everything wrong on that particular call. I just had a bad call. You know, but you've got to be willing to confront people and say, you know what, you did that poorly. That's a hard thing to do. And you have to be willing to do that all the time with everybody. You can't be friends with the people you work with who are sales representatives in any management position. You've got to be only friends with the people who are in management as well, at comparable levels. The opportunities for sales manager are significantly greater as far as career compensation because you have so many more options available to you. You can move into marketing, you can move into training a lot more easily. You get opportunities to move into the 2nd level of management, 3rd level of management. Our current senior vice president of sales started out as a farmer rep. And I love this. I have made over 10,000 sales calls, he tells us. You know what? I make 8 to 10 a day. How many days in a year? Let's say I work 250. I make a lot of sales calls. So he's got like 5 years of experience. I've been doing it for 20 years. I've got 4 times the sales experience of my national sales manager. What's he going to teach me about sales? Is my attitude when I'm crappy. So you've got to remember, if you're in sales, sometimes your sales representatives actually do know more about sales and almost certainly more about the product than you do. And if you're in marketing, sales reps look at you going, dude, what were you thinking? The sales piece is crap. I can't use this. So you got to have, it's a situation where it depends on what your goals are and where you want to go. I chose to look into sales management. A large part of the reason I didn't choose sales management earlier is I had young children. I didn't want to miss out on things. I got to coach good football teams and coach wrestling, go to track meets. I didn't miss a single sporting event, which is a great thing about sales management. You just work extra hard and you can kind of slip out early in many cases, although your manager doesn't know that, although they do. I never missed a single sporting event or anything my kids were, which was cool. I would never have been able to do that in sales management. Does that answer it? Anything else, guys? Okay, cool. By the way, body language is a big thing. There's real big on body language right now in the sales period. Hands up, hands down, step forward. Different cultures, being culturally sensitive. You talked about cultural sensitivity.
Not in the sales class, but
You guys will need to learn cultural sensitivity. Your customers, not everybody's a big, bald, fat, white guy who talks to you like this, okay? sometimes you need to be sensitive. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Make sure you sign this before you leave.